Hello world, this is John Pinto, your roving realtor, Bum Yvonne, video blogger, home chef, podcaster, and I am here at Inglenook drinking 2013 Inglenook Cabernet Sauvignon, also 2015. Salud, happy post-Easter, post-Pasquetta, and I am here with my very favorite PhD nutritionist, Matt Tryon. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great.
Matt, you don't feel diminished that you are not only my favorite PhD nutritionist, you're my only PhD nutritionist. That doesn't make it any less complimentary, does it?
I'm in great company. Me, myself, and I.
Very good. So we are here at the lovely Inglenook Winery and Chateau. We're sitting in the middle of the Luxembourg Gardens reproduction. And if you come here, tell David Gates and his crew I sent you. And today we are going to talk about the renpho Elis Smart Body Scale. There it is. And I'm going to warn you right now, Matt's enthusiasm on this product is off the charts. We've started the unboxing already. That is a very sexy, contemporary scale. Matt, tell us why you like this contraption so much.
Well, I think this is a great tool to pair with your Oura Ring or your glucose monitor, because it's not just a scale. It actually will track your body weight percent, or your fat percentage, your body fat percentage, your muscle mass, your bone density. It tracks a lot of measurements you wouldn't normally get out of just a regular scale. One of the tools one of the things it implements really is called bioelectrical impedance. And this scale, when you step on it, has little electrodes on it that send a small but safe, electrical current through your body. And so bioelectrical impedance measures the resistance that it takes electricity to go through different tissues in your body. So it's easier to go through things that have higher water content, like muscle, and more difficult to go through like fat. So it measures those different resistances and gives you a basic calculation of how much body fat you have, how much muscle mass you have, how much bone you might have. And it also even measures your basal metabolic rate, kind of gives you a rough calculation of your basal metabolic rate just by stepping on the scale. It doesn't take anything. All you gotta do is step out of the shower and boom, on there.
Very good. So let me ask you a question as it might pertain to the metaphor of the wearable tech continuous blood glucose monitor, Abbott Freestyle Libre 2, where you're scanning under your arm all the time with your phone app. And in general, what I'm doing based upon your input is I'm scanning my continuous blood glucose monitor as soon as I go to bed, before I go to bed, as soon as I wake up in the morning, 2 hours after I eat breakfast, before I eat lunch, 2 hours after I eat lunch, before I eat dinner, 2 hours after I eat dinner, and then before I go to bed again. And it gives me immediate, real-time, on-demand feedback on how my blood sugar is responding to my activity and my food choices, so I can modify my behavior. And because of that, I think I lost 10 pounds in the first 2 weeks of the monitor, only because every time I checked the monitor and it saw my blood sugar spiking up, I said, okay, I'm not going to eat that pasta, I'm not going to eat that bread, I'm not going to eat that sugar. And by dropping all that out of my diet, I got immediate reactions, immediate response on my blood sugar, and even an unintended improvement in my body weight. Can you give us metaphorically how this might give you real-time input where it could translate into better health and a better mix of bone density, fat, and muscle?
Right. So basically, losing weight is, most of the time, you're shrinking your fat cells. So this is give you nice feedback in terms of like your percentage body fat. If you're going to the gym, you could build muscle, and this will give you a nice. What I like about this essentially is that when we step on the scale, sometimes we worry about the weight itself, but weight is a reflection of not just your fat, but also your muscle tissue. So you can be heavy, but also have a lot more muscle mass. So going to the gym, or if you're working out with weights, this can be a good reflection of what your body weight is really looking at in terms of like your shift in your muscle mass and the shrinking of your fat percentage. So
and how dramatic can that be day to day? Let's say you step on the scale after a daily shower. How dramatic can those changes be day to day and translate into daily changes in behavior where you can get immediate gratification the way you can on the Libre 2 continuous blood glucose meter?
Well, I've seen changes in body fat percentage about 0.1, 0.2% per day, depending on what's happened the day before. So that is one possibility to see, but it's a good reflection of, like, the glucose monitor really kind of gives you an idea for not just what you're doing but today, but also what happened yesterday. It gives you insight into the
True that. I mean, just yet again going into a third example, the continuous blood glucose monitor with the Oura Ring. The other day I ate, on a couple of days, I ate a little late and a little heavier than I thought I would, and it wreaked havoc on my sleep. Mm-hmm. And it gave me some understanding and insight of visibility into how my body is trying to wind down and go into sleep mode, not into metabolizing a late big meal. So now I have real-time on-demand feedback and the morning after feedback. Don't do that anymore. Don't eat late. Don't eat big meals.
Right.
So you're saying to a lesser degree, you can make daily adjustments that you can see incremental improvements on the scale.
Absolutely.
So might that translate to adding an extra 30-minute walk per day, and or not eating a particularly harmful item that will affect those metabolic numbers that you were referring to?
Or big salty foods. I think salty foods are one of the things that people see in the scale, because when we eat a lot of salt, it helps retains water, and that's what comes out on the scale. So also that's a good feedback in terms of like how much sodium we're consuming and how that's being reflected in our water content.
So if you want immediate reinforcement after acquiring this scale, you would say you would get the most immediate reinforcement if you minimize your salt intake, which, by the way, includes not eating prepared foods and fast foods, correct?
Yep.
More so than just putting a little finishing salt on a piece of salmon. Am I correct on that?
Right. Salt is like one of the most used preservatives that out there. I mean, that preserves everything.
Right. And then secondarily, punching up your activity a little bit, even if it's just adding a 30-minute walk, if for no other reason, tend to get some immediate gratification by seeing improvements on the scale.
Right.
Would you say a 30-minute walk would give you the easiest, most immediate gratification and signs of improvement on the scale?
Well, I think that walking is a really great activity. What we know, though, is that changing your diet really has the biggest impact more than anything, not just in your health, but in your weight, and it has, to a lesser degree, exercise, but really it is our diet that makes the biggest impact on it. But I think that exercise is actually extremely important, so absolutely. 30 minutes, sure, certainly. An hour, I think if you can do 30 minutes, you can do an hour, and an hour is great.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about that salt, which you ran up the flagpole, because I'm always on the warpath with salt. I eat no fast foods hardly ever. Mm-hmm. occasionally, maybe once a quarter, I'll go into a Chipotle, who I feel is above the rest. I eat very little frozen food unless it's made by my artisanal vendors at the farmer's market, who are basically making it fresh in their kitchen. And if I use any salt at all, it's just going to be as a finish on a pan roasted or a broiled piece of salmon. So could you enlighten us on the difference of salt intake if you're using it just like a chef as a finish on a dish versus commercially frozen foods and fast foods?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of sodium, and that goes back to what I was saying before, which is that salt is really the cheapest and one of the most profound and most used preservative that we have. But adding certain amounts of salt to your dishes for flavor and tasting is very, very different, and that is not as pronounced. It isn't as much of a significant amount as what you're going to find specifically in the foods to preserve them, because it needs a larger concentration to be able to keep it preserved for longer periods of time, like fast food and frozen foods and other foods that.
So let's make this real for people.
And things like that.
So let's make this real. If I'm preparing a piece of broiled salmon for you, I'm literally getting a pinch of salt and finishing off the top with maybe a little squeeze of lemon.
Right.
If you were going to eat a similar frozen food, a commercially frozen food, or a fast food item, would there be a pinch of salt in that, or would there be a teaspoon of salt in that, or there would be a tablespoon of salt in that?
Well, usually things that are made by fast foods the things that they use are made in large quantities. So comparatively speaking, as opposed to a pinch, when you're eating something more, you're looking at a much bigger quantity if it's a frozen food or a fast food. So yeah, I would say it's probably more tablespoon quantity than the pinch that you're making at home.
Okay, good. And this may be above your pay grade, but as a home chef living in Napa, rubbing shoulders with professional chefs, I use kosher salt, which is more airy, less dense than table salt. Do you have any opinions on kosher salt versus table salt?
Well, from a strictly nutritional perspective, I think there's Himalayan rock salt, I think, that has all kinds of other minerals in it, and the kosher salt also has, I think, a different density of the micronutrients or the
it's actually got voids in it, the kosher salt. Yeah.
So I think that those I don't know much of the flavor. I'm not much in terms of like whether it actually has a saltier taste to it versus like a regular table salt. But I'm a proponent of the kosher salt or the rock salt or the Himalayan salt as an use in a culinary sense.
Yeah, I love that flaky salt, that flaky pink salt.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the bomb. Now, let me ask you another question. With these electrodes in here, I don't see any kind of an AC cord or a battery or anything like that. Is that perpetually powered on its own?
It has a battery. It has I think this one uses 4 AAA batteries, actually.
4 AAA batteries.
Yep.
Okay. And usually how long are they good for?
I'm still on my first set, and I've had mine for over a year now.
Wow.
So
okay, so keep a stash of AAA batteries, 4 AAA batteries. So buy a 12-pack, put it in your toothpaste drawer in the bathroom, and
last for a while.
Yeah, that should take care of that. And where is the best place to find this renpho smart scale?
Get on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
Yep. These scales they have different versions of scales, but they range anywhere from $30 to $60.
Very good. And with your patients and clients, could you explain to us the range of reactions and outcomes that they've had by embracing the use of this technology?
Well, initially I get a lot of resistance because it's work to collect data. But what I've found is that a lot of people who actually keep track of numbers start realizing that what's happening in their life is very different than what they have in their mind. And so what I think it does is it gives you a way of tracking your health, just like you keep track of your checkbook. You want to know how much money is in your checkbook because you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay for things. So keeping track of blood glucose gives you good insight, one, into how you're fluctuating throughout the day, but also when you're hungry and when the optimal time to eat is. And the scale gives you a nice, good feedback into terms of like whether that's actually working for you or not.
Discount. We got to go and
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We have interlopers from Chicago. Take care. So that's helpful. Now, as we talk to you about real-time outcomes and fasting, I have noticed that if I don't like my blood glucose levels, I will fast. I will fast to bring it down, and then I'll wait a couple hours before my meal. Now, is that strategy applicable also with the use and the technology of the renpho smart scale?
I think you're going to find when you start identifying your trigger point with the blood glucose of when the optimal time to eat is, and you start eating according to that blood glucose level,
Yeah.
and only when you're hungry, and eating only the amounts that are going to help you maintain that glucose level, you're going to be eating a lot less. And that's going to be reflected on the scale in the mornings, particularly with your weight, and then you'll see your body fat percentage going down. So those are going to be the big picture things they're going to get out of the scale, because it's going to be reflective on what you've been doing with your blood glucose and your eating habits and your fasting habits.
Good. Now, I noticed that on the Abbott Freestyle Libre 2 blood glucose monitor, there is an app to connect you with health providers and consultants. I have not noticed that functionality is available with the Oura Ring, and I have no knowledge of whether or not it would work with the renpho smart scale. Can you enlighten us that if people go all in on wearable tech, what is the nexus in technology in being able to retain a professional like you to help process the data and help people adjust their good and bad behaviors to obtain the outcomes that they want to obtain?
It's an interesting question, because there are a number of the Oura Ring has its own app that will analyze the data with sleep. And there's a number of people out there who will look at dietary data or anthropometric data that you get from scales and blood glucose. But there isn't really one specific app that really coordinates all four of those, because they're all interrelated. So we need something that is able to take data from your sleep, look at how it relates to what you're eating and how it's being reflected in the scale. And that's what we do at Nutrition IQ, is to integrate all those, customize your lifestyle to tell you exactly, ideally, when the time to eat, when to sleep, macronutrient ratios, and how they reflect specifically in your scale.
Good. Now, does the Apple Watch provide any functionality in the health app in terms of importing and integrating all of these different values out of the different apps?
Well, that's the beautiful part of Apple, is that their health, nearly all these apps will integrate with the Apple Health app. And so all the information will go into Apple Health all in one place. The problem is that getting that data out of Apple Health can be an issue. So, and applying that data and applying meaning to that data. So as great as it is in terms of integrating information from your scale, from your Oura Ring, from your glucose monitor, it's not great at giving you ideas of what to do with your data and what it all means.
And that's where people like you and professional medical people will help interpret the data.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the industry's moving up more and more, but with the use of machine learning and AI, you can help predict where you're going to be and your health outcomes and your trajectory by using just the data that you have for it. And so it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. So what we do is take the guesswork out of it, so you know exactly every single day when's the best time to eat, what's the best thing to eat, where's the best time to eat, and you're going to see changes in your blood glucose and your scale.
So, Matt, if our audience wants to interface with you directly, how's the best way to reach you?
No, you can reach me at www.thenutritioniq.com or email me directly at mtryon@thenutritioniq.com.
Yes, and it may be possible for you to have your initial consultation over some Inglenook Cabernet Sauvignon at Inglenook Winery. So let's give that a whirl too.
I'll take two.
So, Matt, thank you very much. This has been very enlightening. I think Ellen and I are going to enjoy partaking of the data coming out of that scale. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and don't hesitate to check some of our past videos for other information on wearable tech, and please tune into our future videos, and you will see some intros on Facebook Reels, and then you'll see the full conversations and interviews on YouTube. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next page. Bye for now.
Yes.